All right, Andy Lockwood here, and this is the edited version of the live presentation College Coffee Talk this Saturday, which some of you are on and many are not on. And we had some glitches once again. That's what I love about doing these presentations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my slides and zip through the presentation. This is a presentation about college planning, and you're probably here be good advice from your guidance or accountant how to afford college, but also how to get in and identify the best school and what it takes. And you may suspect that this whole system, the college finance and admission system, penalizes the middle class. In fact, a lot of the rules are really adversarial to six-figure earning families who've been responsible their whole lives. So the point of this presentation is to give you the lay of the land and then give you some specific tested and proven tips, strategies, tactics that you can employ to beat the colleges at their own games. And at the end, I'm going to have a little bonus offer for you in case you want some more of our help with this whole process. But what I wanted to talk about is, but before we launch into the substance of this presentation, is what this is not. So this is not some sort of weird sales pitch or anything like that. We're almost full in terms of private consulting clients right now, and I'm doing a lot of speaking this summer. So although there are going to be some people who approach me for my own help, I may not be able to give it to them. So just treat this as an educational class. There's no pressure or anything like that. The second thing that I just wanted to cover is that I can't possibly make you an expert. I've been doing this about 15 years. I have more than 1,000 personal clients that I've worked on, and a multiple of that of people who've gotten my advice via my podcast, my books, so on and so forth. So I'm going to do my best to give you actual, like I said, tactics and strategies that will work for you, but I can't possibly dump out 15 years of the stuff that's in here, many of which has been forgotten, sadly, and help you, master this. But I can certainly give you a good head start. So congratulations. Thank you for being on this presentation. And let me get into it. So I'm going to share my screen, which always makes me, what's the word? Makes my stomach drop a little bit here because you never know what's going to happen. Okay, this is like that weird Doctor Who type thing. So hopefully you can see my slides here, and we're going to get going. Whoops. So this is how to pay wholesale for college, how to get in and pay discount prices for America's top colleges. I'm Andy Lockwood. Here's what we're going to cover today. Lessons learned from last year's seniors regarding admissions and financial aid. How to get 45% off the cost of college, even if you think, no way can we possibly qualify for anything. How to multiply your odds of admission and merit scholarships. You actually can do that. And I said before, I'm going to give you a little bonus at the end. Trying to hide this. I don't know why that's not working. Some of you guys on this presentation are clients, and many of you are not. Some of you have never heard of me. So this is not designed to be self-indulgent. This is designed just to introduce you to me. So I'm an author, host a podcast, radio show, speaker, and a college consultant based in Long Island, but we have clients, all over. I was going to say all over the country, but all over the world. Sometimes people say, "How'd you get into this field?" And that's that ugly bit of information at the bottom there in red. I personally had a big struggle between college and law school. Actually, more so law school, because I paid off all my undergraduate loans. But my dad's advice to me regarding how to pay for law school was, it'll work out. Don't worry about it. You'll find a way. I wish that I'd gotten different advice. So I didn't. My parents didn't have a me. Well, they had a me, but they didn't have a me, if you know what I'm saying. And it didn't work out. I had all sorts of stress and problems. And now Pearl and I, which you can see here right there. We have 4 kids, and we are really, really committed and obsessed with not burdening them with anything near the problems that I had, the stress, credit issues, you name it. And that's why I'm in this field. So let's talk about you for a second before we get back into your kids. Each dollar you spend on college takes away from something like retirement, saving money for retirement. You don't just pull money out of a vacuum and pay for college. It has to, again, there's an opportunity cost. You're not paying off your mortgage. You're not doing things that could be fun, like buying a vacation home or a boat or etc. But this presentation is really not about you. It is about your kids. And the landscape for student loans is really daunting. We're way over the trillion mark. It's 1.3 trillion. 13.2% of families have between 50 to 100 grand in debt. That's up from 0.06. So from 0.06 to 13.2% since 2001. 700,000 households headed by senior citizens now have student debt. And you know that number is going to naturally increase past the $1 million mark within a couple of years, I would say. Private student debt, which is never really discussed in the news, that's above and beyond the federal debt, is at $165 billion. So the federal debt is, like I said before, 1.2 or 1.3 trillion, and defaults are anywhere from 12 to 34% as I do this presentation. That number varies based on how they calculate it. And I think the number is more like 34%. Other trends that could really play havoc with your college planning and your success after college: 80% of kids switch majors, 39% graduate in 4 years, mostly because they can't get the classes they need to graduate, but there's all sorts of other reasons too. 46% of college grads are employed in a job that does not require a college degree 2 years after graduation. And I just read a stat yesterday in the Wall Street Journal that mentioned that 60% of parking lot attendants have some college education, and 115,000 janitors or custodians have BAs, have college degrees. So even when you're employed, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're employed in something that you went to school for, which begs the question: what is the return on investment? Isn't college supposed to help you with setting you up for life after college? So there's 2 components: is going to a school that's going to help prepare you for success, and getting it for the lowest price possible. We do both of this in our practice when you're one of our clients, but in this presentation, we're going to talk about number 2, how to get it for the lowest price possible. How much does college cost? Now, tuition at a state school in-state might be $10,000 or $12,000, but once you add in all the other costs like room and board, fees, travel, etc., that's where the total cost of attendance really rises up. So these are estimates. Private colleges can cost even more than $60,000. Some are more than $70,000 per year once you factor in all the fees and costs. Why is college so expensive compared to the good old days? This is an example that shows how much college tuition has grown compared to virtually every other index, including consumer price index, including cost of living, medical care, and so forth. Well, the main culprits are federal student loans. Are very easy to get. There's no credit underwriting or anything like that. And frankly, the colleges don't care whether a kid defaults or not. They're not on the hook. Unlike a mortgage lender who, if they issue a loan that goes bad, they may have to, quote unquote, buy it back and take a loss. And that's not the way that student loans work. There's all sorts of competition among colleges, and that's very important, because what that means for you is if you understand that, then you can beat the colleges at their own game. And then there's all sorts of marketing that these colleges are doing. Now, they know exactly what every other school is up to, and that is evidenced by this chart. Look at these tuition-only numbers. They're a little old. They're from a study that was done. Oops! I really wish I could get rid of this thing here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's bothering me. There's a little thing that says Google Hangouts is sharing your screen. Okay, got that. Thank you, Google. Yeah, they're where are we here? I just skipped ahead nicely. So I mean, I think I made the point here is that colleges, I don't think they're in cahoots with each other necessarily, but they all know what each other charges. I mentioned before, student lending has resulted in crazy college cost increases because the schools don't care. They're getting free money anyway. I don't think this is changing anytime soon, by the way, because the government makes so much money on student loan interest. $51 billion in 2013, which is a lot of money, but to put it in context, that year Exxon made profits of 44.9 billion, Apple 41.7 billion, nowhere near the amount of money the government made on student loan interest. The college competition, this would be a nice resort to stay at, but it's a college. That lazy river, that's for college students. You've got payroll. You've got presidents earning deep six or even seven figures. And even when they retire, the Yale guy got a severance or a thank you for your service payment of $8.5 million. You've got professors who are paid full-time to teach extremely part-time. And you've got college coaches at big-time athletic programs that are paid multi-million dollars of compensation because they raise the profile of the school. But even the schools that pay their football coaches and the coaches produce teams that are top 10, they don't always make money on the athletic department money on that budget, even with the TV revenues. There's been documented studies that they're still losing money or lucky to break even when the school is like a top 10 team. But here's the real story. It's not just about professors and the money being spent on teaching. There's about 50% of the increase in payroll has come from administrators, and that includes all sorts of odd-sounding positions like sustainability director, vice president for student success. I guess you need a vice president of student success, otherwise they wouldn't succeed. I don't understand that. You've got chief marketing officers, of course, which can make $400,000 a year. Dietetic internship directors, and credential specialists. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what exactly a credential specialist is. How did yesterday's safety schools become today's dream colleges? This is another question that you may have. Certainly, I hear this a lot, and even I scratch my head over this sometimes. Not to be offensive on purpose, but there's a lot of schools that used to be really easy to get into, like Miami, BU, GW, and Northeastern, that are now exclusive, and they sometimes reject kids who get into Ivy League schools. How did this happen? Well, one of the reasons, of course, is the incessant marketing. Northeastern University sent out 45,000 or 48,000 pieces of direct mail to get 5,000 or 6,000 applicants. That's why they went from a regular local school in the Boston area where I grew up to number 48 in the country. Boston University was I think they kind of pioneered this. When John Silber took over as president of BU in the 70s, the first thing he did was jack prices up. So BU was a little nothing school that was just local and struggling. And now, and back then, and continue to this day, they cost more than Harvard University. And that is, there's no bearing or argument that you're getting a better quality product at BU. It's more about the panache, it's more about the prestige. So anyway, that's the recipe that was then followed by GW and University of Miami. Now, it's not just private colleges that are trying to improve their standing. State universities are also luring non-residents both out of state and out of the country. So now 19% of public universities give roughly a fifth of their affluent students merit scholarships. So if you're not going to qualify for need-based aid and you're looking for other ways to slay the college dragon, this is something that is going to help you, understanding that many public schools will bribe your student. For example, University of Alabama now has more out-of-state than in-state students, and other schools that are very generous to different degrees that are big state schools that are attractive are University of South Carolina, the Gamecocks, of course. I can say that almost without giggling. University of Vermont, I think they're the Catamounts, and Colorado University in Boulder. Forget who they are. Buffaloes, maybe? Okay. So this is you don't have an eyesight problem if you can't read this. This chart shows on the left private. Let me see. Is it private schools? And on the right, I'm sorry. Left is public schools. The right is private schools. And what you see is that in the mid 90s, the blue versus red comparison, blue is need-based, red is merit-based. And in the 2008, 5 years that ended 2008, you can see that the blue or merit aid numbers outgrew the red need-based numbers. So even state schools are doing this. Why are they doing this? Why are they luring affluent families with merit scholarships? Number one, they're getting less money. That's what that fancy pants state divestment term means. They're getting less funding from their states in general, 23% less on average. And they're doing it to improve their prestige, which helps them. It helps their alumni. It helps their standing with employers. It helps cultivate more donations from their alumni base and so forth. So what you need to understand, if you are interested in paying wholesale for college and getting in and paying wholesale prices for a grade school, is the system is really comprised of a few different micro systems. And these are the biggest ones that I see in my practice. Need-based funding, merit-based funding, tax-based strategies, and unique advantages that business owners have. So I'm going to be spending a little bit of time on these types of systems. You should be aware of some strange and interesting facts that should open your eyes. Most aid, most scholarships, most grants, and other financial aid goes to families in the top quartile of income earners. That means six-figure earning families. That surprises a lot of people who think I'm not going to qualify for anything, but it's just not true. That's, if you're in there, you're in the category that gets most of the money. The average discount issued by a private college was 45% last year, according to the National Association of Collegiate Business Officers. I haven't seen that this year yet, but it's been increasing every year. So a lot of the issue in terms of how to solve this college problem is based on what schools you apply to. That's what that means for you. More merit funding than need-based funding out there. I showed you that chart. And the admissions decision in terms of what they're viewing, in terms of how to get in, is not 100% academic credentials. It's 60% academic credentials, according to Don Betterton, who is an acquaintance of mine. We're friendly. He served on the admissions committee at Princeton University for more than 30 years. And his estimation, and this is, by the way, this is why Naviance, if you have Naviance, the college planning software at most high schools, this is why Naviance can be very misleading. We don't use Naviance in our practice. Our clients, when you work with us, our clients use a different software that this gentleman, actually, Mr. Betterton, created. He was one of the founders of Naviance, but he recognized its flaws. So the software that we use is different than Naviance. Naviance looks at three things: your grades, your scores, and other kids from your high school. The flaws, I should say, are that when you're applying to different colleges, you're not competing only with kids from your high school. There's no quota. There's no, which surprises a lot of people. There's, you're not judged based on how many slots that school has. You're actually competing with people from all over the world. So Naviance ignores that, and Naviance only looks at your grades and your scores and does not look at your essay, your whether you're an athlete, whether your recommendations, and all sorts of other stuff. So keep this in mind, because I'm going to come back to it later. Some types of savings accounts penalize you more than other types. Some do not penalize you at all. Some types of savings are exempt, in other words. In financial aid, it's really more of a function of where you have saved, not how much you have saved. So let's look at the need-based financial aid system. This will be really quick. Ha ha ha. I think that's funny, but I say that I probably use this chart 30 times a year when I do my presentations live. This is, though, the U.S. government Department of Education's idea of a simplified version of financial aid. We are not going to cover this, don't worry. Here's what you need to know, according to Andy. The FAFSA follows what's called the federal methodology in terms of determining how much you are going to qualify for. Every college in the country takes it. By the way, there are roughly 4,000 colleges, even though kids in your neighborhood apply to only 25 or so, believe it or not. And the FAFSA has 108 questions, and it is free. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. There's another form that is widely in use called the profile, the CSS profile. It adheres to something called the institutional methodology. Roughly 260 odd colleges require this in addition to, not in lieu of, but in addition to the FAFSA. It has about twice as many questions as the FAFSA, and the College Board, the good folks behind the SAT, are responsible for this. And I've heard this described as like a root canal without Novocaine. So here's the formula, the financial aid formula that you really should understand in order to learn how to beat the colleges at their own game. There's something called cost of attendance, which we started out this presentation discussing. That, as a reminder, is tuition plus room and board and so forth. So the cost of attendance minus your EFC, which stands for Estimated Family Contribution, that is calculated by doing the financial aid forms. I will explain that. Equals your need, your financial need. So COA minus EFC equals your financial need. If you're going to qualify for need-based aid, whatever that number is, let's say you're showing $25,000 worth of need, there are about 60 colleges in the country that will give you all of that need. They will issue you $25,000, and you will pay whatever your EFC is. But most schools will give you a percentage of the need that you meet. They will meet a percentage of the need. So if you're showing $25,000 worth of financial need, you probably will not get all $25,000. You might get $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Furthermore, it might be free money, it might be grants, it might be loans, usually a combination. So I could delve into more of this in my books and in my other presentations. This is just an overview. You should take away from this that the lower your EFC, the more need you'll show, and the greater your eligibility for grants and scholarships and loans. But also understand that EFC is calculated differently between the FAFSA and the profile. But you want a low EFC, not a high one, to improve your eligibility. What are the factors that go into your EFC? Income, assets, especially parent versus kid stuff, your age, and the number of children in college. Parent income and parent assets are penalized at a lower rate than child income and child assets. This is where a lot of middle class or upper middle class families feel burned because they've been told to stash money away, be responsible. But you'll see here in this chart that actually penalizes you. So when I say penalize, it'll boost your EFC. So if you have, for example, let's say it's $100,000 of assets in your name, you're penalized, or your EFC is increased by 5.64%, $5,640. That's in the lower, so the middle quadrant there. That same $100,000 in your child's name, it has a 20% or 25% penalty, $20,000. You'll increase your EFC by $20,000, which is another way of saying you'll lose eligibility of $20,000 per year. Yeah. You're penalized for doing the right thing. On the profile, you're penalized if you have a lot of equity in your house, and any money that you contribute to your retirement account gets added to your income. So even though you're getting a tax break, you're not going to double dip and also get a retirement account contribution. And by the way, I'm not saying here that money in your retirement account counts against you. This is different. I'm talking about the contribution to your retirement account. So if you're making $150,000 a year and you contribute $10,000, you'll be able to deduct that on your taxes, $140,000. But for financial aid, you will be considered to have earned $150,000. That's just the way it is. I am sorry. But here's the good news. And what all this stuff that I'm going to tell you means for you is that you can control your EFC, which means that you can improve your eligibility for financial aid. Here's some stuff that doesn't count against you. I mentioned before, money in your retirement accounts does not count against you. Your primary residence is not an asset on the FAFSA, not true for the profile, but doesn't count against you on the FAFSA. Oops, one more comment I want to make. Sometimes I forget this. I breeze right by it. I'm just talking about primary residences, not investment properties. Those are assets on both FAFSA and the profile, but there's other strategies to reduce that type of penalty. Whole life insurance that has cash value. Sometimes people open up life insurance policies and stash money there. I am not advocating that. I am not a financial advisor with an insurance license. What I can tell you is that I've seen that work. I do have some clients each year who do that, and I've seen a whole lot of bad sales pitches by people who claim they're college planning people, but they're really just selling life insurance, and a lot of unsuitable stuff. So you need to be very careful about understanding whether it's even going to help you or not, and how the products work. What are the fees? What are the restrictions on getting your money back? So on and so forth. In my experience, this stuff works for maybe 25%, 30% of the people that I see, but a whole lot of people will not benefit from it. And annuities, same comments. I've seen a lot of bad products. I've seen a handful of good products. Moving money around into these policies may work for some people, does not work for a lot of people. Cost of living is another not a non-factor in EFC. So if you make $150,000 in the Northeast, and everything is identical to another family who makes the same amount, meaning same types of savings, same ages, so on and so forth, hypothetically, but they live in the Midwest, in Iowa or something, your EFC is the same, because EFC does not factor in any expenses. Let's talk about how to beat colleges at their own game. I mentioned before the strategy of repositioning assets. It works for many, but not all people. Something to explore. Identify colleges likely to fund you, likely to offer merit scholarships. That's a biggie. Some schools are more generous than others. Apply to schools that compete with each other, so you can play them off against each other. If you get an offer from one, but a better offer from a competitor, maybe you can improve school A, school one's offer. And that's part of negotiation tactics. So why should you look at repositioning assets? Because money in your kid's name is penalized at 400% more than parent assets. And like I said before, some savings are entirely exempt. So just shifting money around might improve your eligibility, but you have to look at all the bad stuff. Is there a look back period to do this? The short answer is no, but for other reasons I don't want to get into because of time constraints, you still should not wait till the last minute to do this, because if stuff shows up on your tax return, you might get caught red-handed. Nothing illegal or unethical. It's just stuff that you don't want the financial aid office to know about. Advice for business owners. Business owners can frequently benefit from tactics that are the opposite from the need-based planning stuff that I just described, moving money around. The trick is, which path do you pursue? And that's why a lot of business owners ask their CPAs about whether they should do certain things to improve their eligibility for college, and a lot of CPAs will give them the wrong advice because they are not experts enough in understanding which path they should take, need-based planning or business owner strategies. Business owners have unique advantages under not only the financial aid formulas, but also the tax code. If you're a business owner and you're writing this down, you could ask your CPA about a Section 127 plan. That's something that's very frequently overlooked by CPAs. That allows you to pay for $5,000 plus with pre-tax dollars for college. And again, if you're going to make some changes that may benefit you, there's a flip side to everything. There's no free lunch. There's always a cost to something. You need to be very careful, which is why when you're a client of ours, when you're working with us, what we do is make sure the CPA is clued in on everything that is relevant to the CPA. Always check with your advisors. Oh, look, always check with your CPA. Okay. College is likely to offer merit scholarships. First thing you need to unlearn is that rank is not as important as you think, because it's easily manipulated and it's flawed both ethically and unethically, legally and illegally, and employers know this. There is some truth to the old boy network type of argument that, you go to a snooty Ivy League school, you have a better shot at, getting a job, but don't be too carried away by that. My advice is, your rule of thumb is, if you want a shot at merit scholarships, you want to be in the top 25% of the incoming class. You figure that out by looking at last year's class and seeing where you fall out. Look, if you're thinking about grad school, it really matters more where you finish, not where you start. Plus, so much of grad school is predicated on your grades and your scores. So you can get a better GPA generally at a school that's slightly easier to get into. That's, broadly speaking, big brushstrokes here, but there's a lot of strength in being a big fish in a small pond argument. Look at grad school data on which undergrad, hopefully you guys can read this, on which undergraduate colleges they pull from. So for example, in my book, The Incomparable Applicant, I looked at the Harvard Law School students where they went undergrad, and about 30% went to elite schools, and all the rest went to schools you heard of and a lot of schools you haven't heard of. So just because you don't go, if you're stretching to get into a top school and you're going on to grad school, that may actually count against you. It may hurt your chances of getting in because you might be able to do better at an undergrad school that's not as hard to get into. Colleges compete, so you should apply to schools that rival each other and play them off against each other. We've had crazy experiences recently. Last year, we played Harvard and Yale off against each other. We had a client who got into each, and he got 0 from Yale and something like $35,000 from Harvard. And we told Yale about that. We sent letters to the appropriate people, and Yale increased their offer from 0 to $40,000. And one of the crazy things about this is that Yale looks at the same financial aid forms as Harvard, and they only consider need. Meaning they look at the CSS profile, they look at income, they look at assets. They don't consider anything other than your financial information. Somehow, that's what they say, to the world. Somehow they reassessed their award, and they're like, oh, yeah, we meant not 0, we meant $40,000. So there's other crazy things about that. I've talked about that elsewhere in my presentations. It's actually easier to play schools off against each other when they're not at this elite tier. There are some of the schools at US, on the second tier, like USC and Syracuse, for argument's sake. And this is based on an actual case study, but they have a harder time getting kids to apply. So that is why it might be easier at a non-elite tier to do this. So how do you negotiate? That's Reagan and Gorbachev, by the way. You need to think of yourself on the same side of the table, not adversarial with a financial aid office, even though you might actually be. You need to, get more flies with honey, so to speak. Create leverage. That's from applying to competing schools. Understand the college's agenda. What do they want? They want prestige, and they want diversity, and they want, they don't want to lose out to their competitors. And ask. A lot of people are just too afraid, or they just don't. They look at their financial aid award and they're like, "Oh, okay, it's an offer. It's not written in stone." Let me give you a couple of comments on college admissions and the dirty little secrets. Your real rate of admissions is unpublished. What does that mean? Well, this is going to sound hopefully not racist, because I just want to tell you up front that I am not a racist. Many of my friends are white people, and I don't have anything disparaging to say about them. So, funny? No? Okay, I think that's funny. So, I can't tell in chat whether you think that's funny or not, but I think it's funny, so the hell with you. It's a free presentation. Okay, so here's the deal. So much of college admissions is based on stuff that has nothing to do with academics. And so, for example, being well-rounded as a strategy to get into college is outdated as Bruce Jenner's 2014 wardrobe. I showed that line to my son, my 16-year-old. He's like, well, Dad, he might have had some women's clothing last year too. Anyway, my point is that a big chunk, most admissions experts say 2/3 of each college class is reserved for special things, special circumstance types of kids that they're looking for. So that could be an underrepresented minority. It could be an international student. It could be an athlete, a musician, an alum, a legacy, a son of or daughter of an alum, and so forth. That's 2/3. And that also drags down the overall list of, the overall stats, because those special types of situation kids tend to score lower and have lower grades. So if you're not one of those special situation kids, if you're one in the the plain old white guy category, and you're applying to a college that takes 20% of its students, your real rate is much less. It might be half, might be 10%. That's all I wanted to say there. To the schools, your kid is a product. And applying to these schools is the equivalent of marketing that product. That's how you should think about this. Let's talk about some lessons. Getting in, not a meritocracy. I just explained that. There's more competition each year from international students, which is really why it's getting harder to get into top schools. Early decision helps you more than ever, but you need to be careful because it could hurt your financial aid offer. I talked before about negotiating and leverage. You don't have any when you apply early decision because you're bound to go there unless you say, sorry, I can't afford it. You can't negotiate. You won't have any other offers because of the timing of applying early decision. Demonstrating interest is really, really important. So here's some stuff I talk about in my book, The Incomparable Applicant. When you submit an application, you're answering one question: why should we take you compared to these other 5,000 kids who are the same? How do you answer that? That's a rhetorical question. Here's how you answer it. You need to become an incomparable applicant. To the extent possible, you want to participate in consistent, atypical strategic activities. I talk about this in the book. I call it CASA, but if you are a junior, there's still a little bit of time left depending on when you're watching this. If you're a sophomore or a freshman, you have more time to develop the body of work that schools will be judging. You also need to understand how to write an essay that sells you, doesn't bore the reader. Interviewing is important, but not in the way you think. Demonstrating interest, I'm going to make some comments on. Here's what you need to know about the college essay. The purpose of the essay is not to write a great essay. It's not to write a Pulitzer Prize winning piece. It is not to get an A in English. It's to be interesting. It's to stand out. It doesn't have to be full of all sorts of crazy stuff about how you cured a deadly disease or built a village in a third world country or whatever. The biggest mistakes that essay writers commit is being boring. It's not being interesting. And your English teacher, not necessarily the type of person who's going to be good at helping you write a paper that is interesting. Not a paper, an essay. You can get an A in AP English by writing a very left-brained, well-organized, grammatically correct paper, but you will bore the bejesus out of an admissions officer who's got 1,000 essays to read in 4 weeks or something. You need to stand out and be interesting. And this is going to sound snotty, but your English teacher may not have gone to the type of school that you aspire to go to, meaning that they may not really get it. You know, they may not really understand. They may be great at teaching English, but not necessarily this type of writing, which is different. So what you really should think to yourself is, well, if I'm not going to learn about this in school, what type of writing can I model to get attention? What's out there that I should take a look at and try to emulate? Don't laugh. The highest paid writers in America write headlines for tabloids in order to get you to stop what you're doing, to cut through the clutter of the 4,000 or whatever messages that we are bombarded with each day and get your attention. So you should take the same approach when you are writing a college essay. Maybe not exactly the same approach, but you should think about your essay as a headline, as a showstopper. I should say, by the way, that neither the Post nor the Inquirer endorses my presentation. Okay. So let's talk about some headline stuff. Trying here. Headless body and topless bar. That's one of the most, if not the most famous headlines ever in the New York Post. Aroyd. That's the story when Alex Rodriguez, the Yankees, I don't know what he is, a DH now, was accused of taking steroids. His nickname is A-Rod. So some genius at the New York Post came up with Aroyd as a headline. I like saying that because I'm a Red Sox fan. And I'm not a big Yankee guy. Bruce Jenner's secrets revealed. I don't think that's an actual headline. I made that up, but I just wanted to keep pounding that Bruce Jenner joke because I think it's funny because I'm very mature. But that would be a showstopper. How is your child? Here's the question you need to ask. How's your child going to start his essay? Okay. Let me shift gears to interviewing because we are pushing time here. How much does interviewing count? The answer: you can have a really bad interview and still get into a college because it really doesn't count. What is its purpose? Here's the purpose. It's to show that you're interested. Showing up and interviewing is more important than the actual interview. How should you prepare? You definitely should prepare. I'm not saying blow it off, but be prepared for some questions like, why do you want to go to our school? And another question that a lot of people blow is, do you have any questions for us? So why do you want to go to this school? I think you need to do your research. I think you need to spend 10 to 15 minutes diving deeply, not only in the website of the school, but the course catalog. You will come up with interesting things, questions about the curriculum, the professors who are teaching, that type of thing. In terms of the question, do you have any questions for us? Also be prepared with stuff that you've gotten from the course catalog, from the website, and so on. You need to show that you've done your research, that you're interested. That's what it counts. That's what it counts for. Because schools want to know if you're interested, because they don't want to admit a lot of people who don't show up. That hurts them in many ways, both in terms of ranking, although not as much as it used to, and in terms of financially, not important. I just want you to understand that you need to demonstrate interest, because schools, even state schools like the University of Delaware, have on the record stated the reason we didn't admit someone who should have gotten in is because they never showed up at an open house, they never went in our student portal, they never interviewed, so on and so forth. So if a school offers an interview, I would take it, and I would respond to them when they send you emails, direct mail, so on and so forth. This is the one thing that you can control as a kid, as an applicant, more so than your grades, your scores, and everything else. This is the one major thing. How would it feel to know with 90% certainty which colleges would admit you? How would it feel to be confident about, with approximately 93% plus or minus accuracy, what each college will cost you? How would it feel to be able to multiply your son or daughter's chances of success after college by choosing a school and a major that will lead to a satisfying and lucrative career? How would it feel to know that you're getting the maximum amount of scholarships and financial aid available because you're avoiding deadly mistakes and pitfalls that cost thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars? How would it feel to have a clear path to choosing the right college at a great price so your child can be thrilled with her choice and avoid crushing student debt? How would it feel to be able to tell your child, yes, I can afford to send you to the dream college that you deserve, instead of, sorry, I just didn't do my part? How would it feel to have an expert who has helped thousands of families step in and personally guide you in your corner, giving you an almost unfair advantage through this critical, overwhelming, and stressful journey? Here's what we do. We help with scholarships, financial aid, and innovative funding strategies to help you pay for college in the most efficient and affordable, comfortable way possible, so you can sleep like a baby at night. If you're a business owner, we help with unique business owner loopholes and strategies, and we specialize in helping high-income and high-net-worth families achieve discounts and free up cash flow so they avoid overpaying. We help kids figure out the next 40 years of their lives. We have a career counselor on staff that we work with. The process will blow you away. We've gotten rave reviews from the last 65 or 70 families who've gone through the process. I personally have gone through it. It's amazing. We help identify best fit colleges, not only in terms of, hey, just felt great, but also that are going to advance your success after college in terms of identifying best fit majors that will lead to lucrative careers. We will maximize the college return on investment. We help avoid what we call application incest, where every application sounds the same. You need to stand out for the right reasons in your college applications if you want a shot at getting into a top school. We help prevent what I call admissions Armageddon, when you get into 3 out of 20 schools. Our clients, when they take our advice, they get into roughly 3 out of 4 schools, 75%, 7 out of 10 schools. You don't need to be told no repeatedly. And we will help preserve your relationship with your son or your daughter by running interference, by being the bad cop. Hey, it's not me, it's Lockwood. Don't yell at me about redrafting your essay for the 3rd time. That might be the biggest benefit to working with us. But there is a catch. So let me just dispel that, address that head up front. We're not right for everyone. We're not bargain price. We're not the most expensive by far, but we're not the cheapest ones out there. We price ourselves fairly so that you get a return on investment, but we're compensated fairly, equitably for our time. We don't sugarcoat. You're going to get the best advice possible and very candidly, even if it's not what you want to hear. We do it nicely, but our job is to give the best advice possible. We are not good with slacker, unmotivated kids and helicopter parents. We are, you know, I think parents should be involved. I don't think they should write essays for their kids. I've seen that, and that is outrageous to me personally, but it's a disservice. It's you know, because mom and dad are not always going to be there. And then when that happens and a kid has no experience doing stuff on their own, that's a real stunter. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox again. We have severe capacity constraints. I am recording this webinar in June. We are almost at the point where we're going to stop, where I personally am going to stop taking private consulting clients for the time being. It may last all summer. I don't know. If you are interested, this is what you should do next. Book a strategy session. That is it is a no pressure, no sales pitch, free for all, freewheeling, straight from the hip, straight from the gut type of conversation with me personally. I have an online calendar on that site. You can learn more about what happens when we do the strategy session. You go to that website there, consultwithandy.com. The first 6 clients who end up retaining us after the strategy session will also receive a free admission, a freebie, a free pass to our thick envelope formula essay bootcamp. That is a value of somewhere around $39. We haven't priced it yet, but we're about to produce that coming up soon. And that is, what can I tell you? That is, it's going to help you understand exactly what the questions are asking in the common application essay. It's also going to help you avoid going down rabbit holes of bad answers. You know, help you avoid making mistakes that are going to ruin your chances of letting your essay do its job for you. And it's not just the common application essay. We're also going to talk about some of the main supplemental essays too. So at the strategy session, you can talk about anything you want. If there's something that I decide after listening to you and asking my own questions that I think I can do to help you, then the next step would be to get together either by Skype or face-to-face if you're local and the schedules work out, and start vetting each other, talking with your kid if that's something you're interested in. We have clients all over the world. It's not only local to Long Island. So if that's you, if you're somewhere else, don't be put off by that. And like I said, we are a small shop and almost at the point of shutting down, taking on new private clients. So if this is something that you're interested in, if this is something that you feel would benefit you, if you've been putting off coming up with a college plan, not only how to pay, but also how to get in, pick schools, if you feel clueless, if your kid has no idea what he wants to do, where he wants to go, I call that normal. I call that, and that's even more reason to talk to us, because we can help flesh that out, either on the free call or also working together. When you go to consult with Andy, what you'll see. I wonder if I can actually show you the website right here. I'm going to do that. I'm still sharing the screen here. What you'll see here is me in a lovely green shirt, and there's 2 options. You can either do the free call, which is what I recommend, or there's a paid, what's called a comprehensive planning session. I actually prefer that you don't do that right now. I'd rather you schedule the freebie right here. And this way we can talk with no pressure. I'm having a hard time scheduling the paid ones right now. So that's my advice to you. So that's really it. We are done with this presentation. Thanks a lot for watching. And if you're interested in talking, here's how you do it. Otherwise, thanks a lot. Good luck with everything. Bye-bye.